Hi. So we're about to start the side chat with Marina Díez. I'm Fede. If you haven't seen me before, I'm the program leader of the main independent games and playable experience design. We have a nice, cozy fireplace, which is game themed. And yeah, this is just a little conversation with a brilliant game designer, Marina. Don't be shy, come on, you know. So I was just start, if you can just talk a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are. Everybody knows you, come on.
Hi, I'm Marina. I'm a game designer, and this is going to be a little bit long because I do a bunch of many things in my life in the games industry. So I started in 2017 officially making games, but before that I was being journalist for the games industry. I collaborated with many media in my country in Spain. And then in 2017, I decided to start making games. Besides I was making games, I also was studying at uni. I'm an expert in Dante as well, and I studied Italian and German linguistics. So my background was super different from the games industry. Very, very different, like very. But it was super useful because all the background that I got from literature and humanistic stuff is helping me a lot these days when I'm making my own games. And then when I graduated, I didn't find obviously anything on Italian and German in my country in Spain because we don't find that kind of stuff, you know. Then I decided to start doing digital marketing. So I started doing digital marketing for the fashion industry. First as an intern, then as a project manager. And then I decided that I hated that so much. But it was good. I mean, it was miserable back that days, but then it was really good because one day my mom said to me like, "Hey, why don't you try in the games industry?" And imagine like my laugh was enormous, like me, like I'm horrible at maths. I can do anything. I'm super good at languages. I speak 6, but I'm horrible at maths, like very bad. So I was all the time thinking that games were only for people that were good at maths and not people like me in general. And that was, my mom was like, why not? And then from that day I started thinking like, well, like maybe I can give it a go, like maybe it's for me. So in 2017 I applied for this master degree at Brunel University of London. I was thinking, probably they are not going to accept me like in any ways. Like for me, it was like, wow, London, like my English was horrible. Well, not horrible, but not really good as now, which is good. But so I thought my chances were 0. But I'm a dreamer, so I decided to apply anyway. And I did. And then one day I was in my miserable office in Madrid doing marketing stuff, very boring, lying to people for buying things that they don't need, the typical stuff. And then I received this email from Brunel saying to me that I got accepted. So I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna die here. I was super happy. And even my boss was, why are you that happy? I was like, oh, nothing.
That's the universe telling that you have to make games.
So I'm leaving. So and then it was very difficult for me at that point because I didn't have any money for coming here in London. So, my parents, they didn't go to university or anything. So, their salaries in Spain are normally very low. But if you don't have any uni degree, it's even worse. And then I studied at uni in Madrid because I got scholarships because of my grades, but apart from that, it was like anything. So my parents worked so hard for having me here, and that was a huge responsibility. And in September 2018, I moved to London, and I started my master at Brunel. And at the same time, I was trying to find a job, but it was really difficult, so I stopped. And then instead, I kept doing work for different like organizations. I was working for FemDevs in Spain, which is an organization that helps women in the games industry. And then I also did lots of community work in Madrid, attending like different talks and stuff, organizing other things. So yeah, and then since I moved to London, I started knowing more and more people in the games industry, which is really, really nice. And then I founded as well a video games magazine called Televi Magazine that's still alive in Spain, but I don't manage that anymore because I don't have many time. But like a bunch, like 20 people is still working on that every day and writing news and articles about the games industry. So yeah, and then what else I do? I speak at events around the world. This year I'm going to be at GDC next month, talking about sex and emotions. I'm mainly a game designer that is specialized in emotions and how to create environments in games. And then, this is like world premiere. But in 2 weeks, I'm going to announce that I'm founding my own studio based in the UK. What I wanted to say with all of this is like, if everything seems really impossible, like I think nothing is impossible. It seems a topic, but it's true. And I think if you work hard towards a goal, you are totally capable of achieve that. So I encourage everyone, to be a dreamer with, sense of common, like don't do crazy stuff. But to be honest, if you have a dream and you want to follow that, I encourage you to do that like in a safe place, but do it because it's really rewarding. And I really feel like now last year I ate lots of Nutella and bread and that stuff because I didn't have any money for buying practically anything. So, but it was worth now that I feel more in a safe place, and I had a lot of friends that helped me as well, and obviously my parents and the government of UK with a loan that I need to pay for the next 30 years. But everything is worth it, and also encouraging you to make lots of friends in the games industry because it's really nice. Fede is my best friend, so I'm so happy to be here. And so that's all that I
do. I'm really curious about the fact that you did so much in such a short time, and what has been your the impact with getting to know the industry? Do you feel welcome, and especially as a queer woman, what are like the difficulties and the challenges that you have found? Because it can be problematic, and we all know that. We have talked about that. So yeah, I'm curious about your first impact with the industry after university.
So that's a nice question. I think I have mixed feelings with that. I felt really like I didn't feel unwelcome anytime, but it's true, like in general I didn't feel unwelcome, but obviously I found like specific individuals that were so sad people that it was like, wow, it's a woman in the games industry. Surprise, no? And also like that's pretty common, and I think like pretty much every woman have lived that in their time in the games industry. So as I didn't feel unwelcome, I also recognized like some people still like having some kind of commentaries towards a woman in the games industry. Like for example, stuff like, oh my God, you are so cute for being a game developer.
So game developers are ugly. We know.
Game developers are super cute. So, or stuff like, well, when you are in a booth in an event, like there are lot of men that approach to ask you like to flirt with you, to ask you, oh my God, like you have a boyfriend. So that's that kind of stuff. But talking to other people, to other women in the games industry, I think it's sadly such a common thing. So it's not something that only happened to me or anything. I also remember in one occasion, I went as a journalist for a publisher back in Spain. And I remember that we were playing Tomb Raider. I think Guardian of Light, probably Guardian of Light. And yeah, I was the only woman in the room, and I remember that a journalist from a super huge magazine in Spain was super pissed off because I won the round. He didn't talk to me for the rest of the 3 hours that we've been together. It was so sad because he was, I'm super tiny. He was like a big man, like 30 years old. I was like 19, 20. I'm 25 now, so I was like very tiny there. And, like he was so pissed off, like doing like stuff but but that was funny, like everyone was like, what's wrong with you, man? So, but that was nice. But yeah, so I think in general things are changing, but like there's a lot of stuff still like to do. Like yeah, like other nice thing was like 2 years ago I was a juror for the Global Game Jam in Spain, one of the places running Global Game Jam. And I remember that this man, that he was a MA leader in one of the most important universities in Madrid. He approached to me and said, "Hi, I'm Marina. I'm going to be one of the jurors for this Global Game Jam." And he said, "Oh, nice, Marina. Do you know what's a jam, right?" Yes, I'm a game developer. I know what a jam is. So he's like, "Oh, nice, good." So, but he was one of these sad people that he's like sadly running an MA. So it was fine. He's still no. He was a sad person running an MA, not because people running MAs are sad, but Fede, I love you. Fede is not sad, but that man was really sad, and he was running this MA. So yeah.
Okay.
You're mean.
No, I promise. That kind of made me think about this. Is there been like a moment when you realized, okay, this is happening, I'm a game designer now? Like something in particular that just made you click and just made you accept? Because it's like, I think it's difficult for some people to say, I made like a few small games, but I'm not really a game developer. And I'm like, no, you are. You have made games, right? So I'm curious if there's a moment, and which moment was for you that made you realize, oh, I'm there now.
So I already told that I hated my job in marketing. So one of the days I was super angry with my boss, like very angry, because he was like the typical he came from Google. And he was like the typical 50 years old man that don't listen anything. He thinks like he's super innovative and all this stuff, but he wasn't. But I was I was super angry that day, and I decided I was not going to do any job for him anymore, like any work. I was just sat in my desk, like thinking like this guy is, like horrible person. And I discovered Bitsy, and through Twitter, because I was following one of my best friends in the games community, but there was someone that I only knew for a bit. And I discovered Bitsy, which is a tiny giant hosted by itch.io, if you don't know it. And it's like pixel art style, and it's really, really simple for using because you don't need to know any code for doing stuff. So if you know code, you can do super cool stuff. But if you don't know any code, it's fine, and you can still making games. So I discovered that through Twitter, and I said, wow, like, oh my God, like, I can make a game. So that day, in like 2 hours, I made my first game, which was Alice in Wonderland. So it was like super basic. I made like one room representing like the no birthday party and all this stuff. And then after that, I was thinking, like games, it's cool to make games, it's nice. So, and then after that, I Google, I put how to become a game designer. So the first article that I read was Fede's, that I didn't know Fede back there. So it was really nice because now he's my best friend and it's really weird, but it's destiny. So, so the first thing that I opened was that, and I started reading his article, and he said like, it's going to be really funny because the first thing that Fede said in that article was, I'm Italian and I'm writing this article in English because if you don't know English, you can be a game developer. And I was like, oh my God. You know, like I knew
English.
English.
10 years ago in my defense. Sorry.
But my English was not that good. So I was thinking like, I can be a game developer. I don't know maths. I don't know English. So, but no, after that, I read the whole thing. And then I started having like friends in the games industry. And, you know, I could go for them to advise and stuff. And then at one point, the communities between London and Madrid, which is my hometown, became super close because a space called Dev Space Lawn. And then Fede was there. And one of my best friends from Madrid in the games industry, he said to me, oh, Fede, I know him. He's in that space loan. You should talk to him. So one day I opened a conversation to Fede and I said to him like, oh, I read your article about becoming a game designer, but I don't know. And that moment was like when I said like, I'm a game designer. You know, like I really like to make stuff for other people. And I really like to put all my creativity then because when I was a child, I was the typical child that tried everything. Like one day I wanted to be a dancer, other day I wanted to be an artist and I was drawing all the time. Other day I wanted to be a writer. So no, I did so many things because I'm hyperactive. So I was all the time doing stuff and my parents didn't know what to do. But actually I think that gave me lots of cool insights for them becoming a game designer because I really believe that a game designer is a person that can show experiences to other people out there. So I think that as many things you can do, it's really fun and it's really cool. I think the myth of the game developer closed in a room is really old, and I think like the cool thing is to go outside, to lie in the grass, make friends, eat.
This is interesting and it was unexpected. It leads me to another question that I have for you, which is how much do you put about yourself inside your games? And also you were talking about before about being a philologist and literate, and so how this sort of other things that you know and they are not games helped you make games.
So I put everything in my games, like my whole soul I put in my games. It's a very draining process, but I think the outcome is really worth. And like for me, making games is to make games with your soul and to put all this stuff there. And I think then it's really, people can feel that when you are making games with your soul, and when you are putting all what you have there for them. It's also a gift, like each time that I make a game, it's because I want people to make them smile or to make them feel like less alone by, like experiences like having fear or feeling alone and that kind of things. So yeah, I think I don't understand game design or games development in general without putting yourself out there. Obviously, like each of us, we know how much we can put of ourselves in a game or in a product. It's like a book or whatever, because it's not easy. And one of my last games was PTSD, which was a game about post-traumatic stress disorder, and that was really difficult because it's something that I experienced, and it was I felt miserable each time that I was coding that thing. But I also think it was really important to do it anyway because, like I'm not the only person in the world with PTSD. So then if a person with PTSD finds my game and play that, and I think they are going to feel like less alone, and they are going to say like, oh my God, like, I'm not the only person in the world having that, because when you feel bad about something, or if you are having an illness or something like that, you tend to think to close in yourself and to think, I'm the only person in the world experiencing this, and you feel super alone. But actually you're not. And I think that games can help us to, feel less alone and to create communities and to make people feel better. So yeah.
Yeah. You are a quite strong mental health advocate here in the UK. You have already given many thoughts about that. And you also have a Discord server for women and underrepresented groups about mental health. So I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about it and how you found this experience.
So in November, I noticed that I was thinking about how difficult it was for me that last summer for finding a job in the games industry in the UK. And I was thinking about how many times, like all the people that interviewed me were males, like white males, more or less like 30s, 40s years old. And all the time I needed to justify myself. All the time I interviewed with a big company here in the UK, and it was a company that I admire a lot, but it was not the kind of games that I usually make, because I make a lot of games around mental health, self-care, and that kind of things. But anyway, when you're a game designer, you're a game designer. I mean, it's not like I prefer to make games about emotions and mental health and stuff, but that doesn't mean that I can make a racing game, because I'm a game designer, so I can do everything. So, but for this company, the guy that interviewed me, he was all the time insisting myself, but that here we don't make mental health games, right? It's like, yes, I mean, I apply because I know the company. So it was all the time like that. Like I felt all the time stupid, and that I don't like that. Like, I think I'm a professional, and I think I don't need to justify all the time myself, my career, and it's all the time explaining my achievements and all this stuff. And it's stupid. I don't think that a guy needs to justify that much himself when they are looking for a job in the games industry. So that made me feel really angry. And I was thinking, if I feel like this, like shit, basically, many women out there are feeling the same, or even like non-binary people. I can imagine how it can be for a non-binary person to all the time, it's super difficult to come outside to say that I'm non-binary, because people ask, obviously. Like, it's more difficult even if you don't feel confidence with yourself. They are asking stupid questions that's nothing related to the job you are going to do. So I was thinking that it was probably that there were not communities around mental health specifically for women and non-binary groups, and non-binary people, sorry. So I thought, like, why don't make a Discord server? First, I thought that I was going to make a Slack, but Slack is a platform that I don't use that much these days, because I related so much to business and boring stuff. So I decided to move to Discord, because it was a little bit like more the thing that we are using these days. So I started this idea. I started like a super simple Discord server, like with a couple of channels. Like we have different stuff, like in mental health, we have like resources, or stuff like feeling down, or in one specific channel about imposter syndrome and that things. And then we have we had another channels about well-being, like food or pets, or funny stuff, or like events. And then we had also like stuff around jobs, opportunities, and that kind of things. So I put a tweet on Twitter, and in 2 days it became like, I had like multiple DMs in my inbox, 700 likes, thousands, like 800 retweets, and I was like, wow, like I was thinking that it was a need for this, but I didn't think that it was that much, because it was incredible, like the answer of the people out there, incredible and super good, because like it was really nice to bring together a part of the community for cool stuff like mental health, which is really important, and I don't think we talk that much, like, enough about it. So I started that, and then today we have like more or less 300 members, and I'm also organizing a mental health meetup for women and non-binary people in San Francisco at GBC. And so that's how the Discord server started. And like, it's a safe space that people can have like serious conversations, not only about the games industry, but about many things. These days we also have a channel for sex or for period, like, like stuff that we don't have other places for talking about. It's like, I feel like, it's quite nice that we have that, and I feel like it's all the time to make people feel less alone and more supported, which is really important. So yeah.
So I've got one last question for you, which is about the passage that I read about video games have always been queer, and this idea of video games and game spaces in general that really resonates with me about being sort of inherently queer because they let us experiment with different identities and different vision of the world. And yeah, I was wondering, what do you think about that? If it's been your experience as well when you start playing games, how do you use games, and if you have like critical play or sort of this kind of stuff of experimenting?
I think, well, obviously when I started playing games, I didn't think about queer because I was very little, but I think in some way, yes, like, the good thing about games is like, you can be other people, you can play, as you said, with different identities. And for example, with stuff like The Sims, I remember that, well, I had like super hard times, like when I was 8 years old, because my dad was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So for my family, that was really difficult. And I remember that for me, for example, playing The Sims, it was really nice. And also when I'm a bisexual, so for me, experimenting with that, it was like super, like like fresh air, like freedom, like I can experiment with that, and it's not like real life, but obviously the feelings that you have, they are real. So I think video games are a tool for knowing ourselves as well, and I think experimenting through them, it's really healthy, and it's really nice as well. And I'm also remembering, like, sorry, talking about The Sims, I remember that a couple of years ago I read an article about saying like, it was saying like, playing The Sims was super helpful for mental health, because like you can experiment with different identities, and also you can live other lives. So I think that's revolutionary. Like, we don't notice that much that kind of things, and I think it's really important, and also give us space for freedom and conversations that otherwise we probably wouldn't have. So, but games are inherently queer. I think, yeah, like I think games are very subversive as well, can be very subversive, and like queers, games are for the weird people. Like, now it's super cool to be a game developer, but I think all of us experiment in our lives that to be the weird kid playing games. Well, we're still being weird kids, but we are cool now, so so yeah. So but anyway, that passage that you read, that book's really nice. So yeah, and I also remembering a lot with that passage, the work of the fantastic and amazing Anna Anthropy. That if you don't read anything that she wrote, I super recommend that. She has a book called The Rise of Video Game Sinisters, which is amazing for people that are starting in the games industry. But even if you already started, it's like this a reading that you need to do because it's fantastic.
Yeah, I actually have one more question at this point, which is this. Because you talked about an anthropy book, and it came to my mind this thing that kind of constantly is in the back of my mind, of the fact that she's very upfront in saying you shouldn't be in the condition of asking permission for making a personal game, and I really believe that you shouldn't be asking permission for making art, for making games. So my question would be, have you ever felt that you had to ask permission to someone for making a game or for calling yourself a game developer? It's a hard one, I know.
I think I didn't like feel a true game developer until recently, like I was not really conscious that I was a game developer. Also because, like you have like a lot of people surrounding that sometimes say to you like, "Well, but your games are not. This is not a game, right? It's like a walking sim." So yeah, so it's really difficult. I think also for a woman and to be identified as game developers, but like asking permission for making personal games. N- I feel, I really feel like I don't feel like that right now. That like I already made a bunch of games, but my first personal game was this game called Hey Dad, which was a game for my dad who is bipolar disorder, as I said. And when I published that, I thought that it was going to be like like anyone was going to pay attention to it. But actually, like lots of people paid attention to it, and like years after, like last year, I met some people that came to me and said like, "Oh, I played like your game, Hey Dad," and I started making games because I saw this game. And like, or people I say like, "Oh, my dad speaks bipolar disorder as well. It's so nice." Yeah, I don't feel like I need to ask permission, but it's all the time. Being a woman is all the time that, as I said, you need to justify yourself permanently. Like, yes, I'm a game developer. Yes, I've been developing games since 3 years ago. Yes, I know how to use Unity. So yeah, so it's all the time like that. It's super tiring, but but apart from that, I really think that games industry is a really nice place, and I really believe that we are working on the right direction. So yeah.
Yeah, really hope so as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marina,
Thank you.
for this chat. I think it's been done really, really well. I really turned emotional, which I really like. So yeah, no,
Yeah,
thank you.
cry.
Thank you for sharing like so much, also like so many personal things about yourself. It's very,
Thank
very
you.
Are there any questions for Marina? And I just want to actually just play games.
That was really cool. Thank you. Yeah, I actually have a question because I was Spanish. I come from Madrid. What do you think is the difference between the game community in the UK compared to the one in Spain or other parts of Europe that you might have connections with?
The money. It was a joke, but I really think is that like first, I think like, well, you are not Spanish people, so you don't know this, but I think in Spain, our government don't fund enough the things that we do in the games industry. So apart from that, our education is more or less, each time that we change government, we change also education laws and all this stuff. So our English tends to be poor. So that's a problem in the games industry because all the games industry is in English and all the events and all this stuff. And also like, I'm very lucky to be able to go to lots of games events in Europe. But like last month I went to Spain and I've been with students from one of the games school in Madrid. And I said to them like, "Oh, you should go to Amaze." And they said to me, "Yes, Marina, but for me going to Amaze is like in Berlin, it's like 400 euros and I can't afford that. And we don't have like any scholarships for going to Berlin, which is not GDC, it's like Berlin is there, you go with Ryanair." So I was thinking that it was so easy to go there, but it actually is not. Like 400 people or 400 euros is not affordable for lots of people. So we in Spain we don't have that many opportunities. So the problem is that our community ends trapped in our country, and they don't have money for going outside, for seeing what other people in Europe what they are doing with games, and like people from outside don't come to our country because we don't have funds for paying people. So when we receive speakers, like international speakers, that, for example, Jupiter Hadley, if you don't know her, she's amazing. She came to Madrid like a couple of times, and she did it for free, like, because the event that was inviting her was like a super indie event, like it was like this, and they didn't have any money for paying any venue, anything. They made this event monthly with €0. So so I think the difference is that, like, communities in Europe have normally access to more stuff than we have, and so the difference, I think that's the main difference. And then also, like, I find like people, for example, in the UK concretely, they are more open, and like I don't feel like any time that I've been to an event here in the UK, any male look at me like weird, or like, like what are you doing here, like. So, but in Spain that sadly happens like a lot of times, like still having people like that, also because I think we are a little bit behind in some other things, but I don't think it's like our fault, like people's fault. I think it's also fault of our government because we don't have access to many things, and so basically that's what I think. The easiest thing is that if you follow me on Twitter or whatever, send me a DM and I send invites. This is for like all the people here that want to join.
You said you make games about mental health quite often and emotions. How do you make games like that without hurting yourself?
I don't. So basically, when I made the biggest thing that I made around that, it was PTSD, and the game about my dad. Because so it's a bit long, sorry, but when I made Hey Dad, it was because I felt ashamed of my dad my whole life, like until that day. Why? Because I all the time I was very, I had a really strong relationship with my dad when I was a child, and we've been together all the time. My mom was working super hard, so she hadn't time for being with me at that point. And then my dad was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, so he completely changed, and I felt like very bad. I had depression as a kid because of that, and it was really hard for me. And then in 2017, when I made Hey Dad, I made this game because I was tired of feeling ashamed because my dad, it was not because I was thinking like I'm ashamed. It was like internally I was feeling ashamed because my dad was the weird dad, like my dad was the person that was seeing strange people in the street, or he was wearing like dark glasses because he thought like people were laughing at him. So, like people saw that, and they were like saying to my mom like, oh, your husband is weird, but actually because people is stupid. But I was tired of feeling ashamed, and then I made this game, and I told to him like, I've been featuring Ichayo for 2 days in the main page, thanks to that game. And I said to my dad like, oh, I'm featured on Ichayo, like we are in the main page. And he was like, oh my God, you're going to become rich thanks to me. And I was like, because now he's totally healthy and it's fine, and it's like, like you can really relate that he's bipolar disorder, but that took like a long time. So when I made this game, I was like crying all the time. It was really difficult for me, but at the end it was like very worth it. Like, it was something that healed me in some way, but I reckon that that's not probably for everyone. It's really difficult to take that step and to say, I'm going to do this. And obviously you're going to get hard yourself. But for me, that part was really rewarding after all the thing. And then PTSD was really, 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 really hard because I made PTSD last year in 2019 between May and September. So I was in a period that I was breaking up with my boyfriend after 9 years. I was moving home. I moved home 3 times in London in that period as well. and it was really complicated. And at the same time, I was trying to make PTSD. I was super anxious because of all this personal stuff. So what for PTSD, if you didn't play it, is like one of the scenes are in the tube, because I have anxiety specifically in the tube, but not in London, more in Madrid. But in London also it's difficult thing. Now I don't have anxiety anymore, yay! But back at that point, it was really difficult still. So for making that part, that it's basically you go through a platform in the tube, and you start like feeling very anxious because of, normally people that have anxiety in public transportation, like in the tube, they think that they're going to fail and against the train and that kind of stuff. That's what happens to me. Like I say, oh my god, if I fell against the train and I'm going to die. But obviously you don't want to die, but you think that that's going to happen. So for doing that, I went a lot of times to the tube to see how my body reacts when the train came. So basically I feel super tense, and it's like, it's like I stopped breathing there. And so it was really difficult. Obviously I got hurt, but in a controlled way, for saying like, you know your limits. Obviously if I feel that I'm risking too much, I'm not going to do that. Like, but it's impossible to don't get hurt making personal games, because it's part of you. So, but I think the outcome is totally worth it. I don't say that everyone should do it, but I think it's really nice to see other people doing this thing, because you feel like less alone and more supported. So it's nice. Hi.
For letting us join you for this. So it's quite personal, so thank you very much for sharing this with us. The you that was in marketing, it's that one. If you could tell that version of you anything in life now in the games industry, what would you tell your marketing you?
That was a super complicated time for me. I was very, very sad. The fashion industry is like even worse than the games industry. So, I mean,
We're all doing so well.
we are doing good. So I was very sad there, and probably I would tell myself back there that like nothing is for forever. Like all the bad times have an end. And so like that back there, it was when I started to trust my gut a little bit more, because sometimes it's really complicated, like to trust your gut. You feel like like when you feel, and when something is not for you, you feel it. But back there for me, it was difficult to leave that job because I needed the money. So like it's not all the time like just trust your gut and live your dream. So but yeah, like it's really important to do that, to trust your gut. And I would say to my marketing me, trust more your gut and fuck this shitty company. So and this boss that you don't like, and yeah, so probably that. But still, like I think I say that to my me because it was a 22 years old me. But I obviously think that it's not that easy for all the people that feel sad at a job. So that was my case. But like normally trust your gut and use your common sense and find your way in the as much as you can. Like some people, like they work in the day in a job that they hate, but in the night they make games or the thing that they really love. So don't crunch, but find your ways. And obviously there are some stuff you can do for changing your life. You always can change your life, like multiple times.
Thank you so much for speaking again. It's very inspirational. I think it's easy when you get into sort of the development hole to become really consumed with your work, and sometimes it can be challenging to sort of balance that with other components that are essential. We sometimes forget to take care of ourselves and that kind of thing. What advice do you have for maintaining guess, better work-life balance or healthier work patterns, I guess, in general?
So yeah, that's a good question. So I'm super workaholic person. Like, I don't know how I do it. I don't know how I do the bunch of stuff I do, but if one day I feel like I can do it, like I'm tired. Like for example, yesterday, I felt like I can do it. I can do anything. My brain is not working. In that case, what I do is like to don't do anything, basically. Like the world is not going to end if I don't work for one day. So if I need to get under my bed, I do that. And yeah, I spent like the whole evening watching Terrace House, which is a series that I recommend. It's on Netflix. And like that, I think that's the balance. Like this is also very related to trust your gut. If your body's saying to you, you can do this, don't do it. Like there are many days for doing games and stuff, but if you don't feel good, anything is going to be good. That's why I don't believe in crunch politics. I think, if a game is good doing crunch, imagine what kind of game people can make without doing crunch. Like amazing stuff. Like it's not worth it. And yeah, so I think for keeping the balance is always to trust your own body. Even sometimes in the games industry, it's really easy to compare yourself to other peaks. And that's really, really, really bad because, for example, I have so many energy, like I'm like a hurricane, but maybe I don't know, other people, they are not like that. And that doing the stuff that I do, they both feel like super burnout, or in the contrary, like other people like more hurricane than I am. I can compare myself to them because I have my energy limit. So you need to know yourself. It's also a work of knowing yourself and to see what your limits are and what do you need to stop. I think that's really important, but not only for games, but in general for life, to see until when you can do more and until before feeling super burnout, and then you need to recover for months or years. So yeah, so always trust your gut and do what do you want to do. Like if this terrace house is fine, if you want to, lie in your sofa looking at the ceiling is totally fine. No one's going to judge you. So yeah, so just do what you feel you want to do.
Any more question for Marina?
So your first game, what made you feel comfortable or kind of safe enough to immediately develop your first game as something that's overtly personal rather than metaphorical or about a creature jumping around somewhere?
Okay, this is a story that I didn't tell before, but my first game was a game called Life is Life, and it was a game made in Unreal Engine, which is an engine that I don't know at all, and it was a copy of Night in the Woods, but very bad made. So it was for a game jam, and it was horrible. It's probably the worst game that the games industry are going to see. And it didn't work, so it's fine. But apart from that, that inspired me so much to do more stuff. And I thought, if I can do this shit with anything, what can I do, taking it serious, right? So then I found I'm super emotional and passionate person. So for making games, I thought that emotions and stuff were my thing. So I thought that I could be a super good game designer doing that. So that's how I felt empowered and, for making games, because I think I found a little bit my way. Still, if I can make other kind of games that are not related to emotions, but it's the thing that I really want, I really like to do that. So that's what I do. And yeah, so when I started with Bitsy, I felt super powerful, wow, I don't know how to code, but I don't know how to code yet. So, sometimes I think when you start in the games industry, you can feel super overwhelmed because you don't know how to code. That's the main thing that people see about the games industry. Like, oh, I don't know how to code, so I can make games. It's not true. So I think Bitsy it's a super good tool for overcoming that burden, because you can make anything in like minutes. It's incredible. It's super good for prototyping as well. So yeah, I think that using Bitsy made me feel super as like a superhero, and like I started with Bitsy, and some people were saying to me like, those are not real games, blah blah blah. But then you start with Bitsy, and then you go to Construct, and then from Construct you go to Unity, and then you make like other kind of games, because they are all games. So it's not better a Unity game than a Bitsy game. It's just different. So yeah, so that's my experience with different engines and emotions. Yeah.
Any more questions? Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you.